Great. Hopefully that's all set up. And as I say, yes, so there'll be questions, just ask and take part in the conversation because we'll tailor this to your needs as we go along. But now I will hand over to Dougal to kick us off. Thank you.
Thank you. I have just I've just seen an issue with my setup, so bear with me a moment because I'm just going to reboot it. So, because I've got lots of stuff to demonstrate to everyone, and so I want to make sure it's working properly. Okay, something is being slightly strange with it, but I will roll with this and we'll figure it out. So yeah, I've got. I'll switch to just to show you. But can firstly, can everyone hear me? Okay, cool,
Yeah, loud and clear. Thank you.
lovely. So I'm Dougal, and yeah, as Nicholas says, well, I do lots of different things, but I'm a producer, director, content creator, and I run a company, Inner Ear, which is a production company with a specialism in live program making. And been doing that for, well, we started in October 2000. So this will, by September, will have turned 25. And over that time, done lots of different things, but all of it in kind of the cultural world, or most of it in the cultural world, and a lot of content creation in audio and video, and some interactive storytelling, and lots of live streaming and podcasting and things like that. And I am primarily a producer, content creator, a creative person, but I've learned to do a lot of technical things as the means to the end of creating the content to reach the audiences that we want to engage. And so there's lots that I can impart to others to help them do this. And I've worked with Nicola on lots of things over the years, and we both were involved very much in Expo North and did a lot of work with different creative organisations around the Highlands and Islands, and especially with independent museums and across the heritage sector. And that's how I first met Ayla as well. We did some work with you in your previous organisation that you were at, Ayla, and then Ayla and Nicola came to me to speak about doing some live streaming training. So I've got a proposed agenda for this session over the next couple of hours, but I very much want it to be responsive to what you want to get out of it. So I'm happy to be reactive to that. So I'd like to start with just finding out from everyone, especially as it's a relatively small group, what experience you have of live streaming, and if any, and if you don't, or either way, what would you really like to be able to stream? What kind of event or activity or show would you like to make? So Ayla, could it start with you, please?
Okay. So we do already do a series of online lectures, and it has come up recently that there might be some candidates there who would actually quite like to come up to the museum in person, where we don't really have heritage-related content facilities in terms of space to host a lot of people, and their live streaming would be really handy. I think that would be the easiest kind of setup, or the most realistic one for us to start with, because the lecture series itself is very well organized by Alistair, who's here as well, and it's something that is already taken up by a lot of people. So it would be a nice event to trial it with. But in general, our space restrictions are very much affecting event planning. So once we have trialed it with some lectures, it would be nice to take it forward with some other things. We've recently had some storytelling sessions at the museum that were popular. That might be something to do as well. And potentially looking further into the future, something slightly more interactive in terms of workshops where people can try and work with the instructor who's on the screen. Yeah, I think that's sort of what would be realistic for us looking forward.
Great. Okay, cool. Thank you. Um, so that's it's quite a good list of ambitions, and you've got reasonable experience to start with as well. So you kind of is it fair to say you're building on what you've been doing already?
To an extent, we're building on what Alistair has been doing
Cool.
with the online lectures. But yeah, to an extent, yes.
Okay, great. Um, and then let's go to Paul, please.
Uh, I think really from the Graham House point of view, it's the same as what Isla's just said. Um, I've participated in a number of the online lectures and listened to them. I haven't been involved in setting any up, but I think it's really just trying to get some ideas of what sort of things we could do. Um, I think I come at it a slightly, well, I don't know, I'll come at a different way. I'm looking at this from what opportunities we may have from doing things like this to generate or monetize things. I'm the treasurer of Grove House. And obviously we've got things of interest that are to a wider group than just locally and visitors. Um, and, you know, we ended up doing the online lectures really because of COVID. Previous to that, they'd always been face to face. And so we wanted to carry on during COVID and suddenly found it was a very healthy revenue stream for us. So it's another way of looking at with what we've got in the collection and the things we can do, that we can get a wider audience and get some revenue from that as well. Which, I'm sure, like a lot of the smaller museums, is a very key thing at the moment. Is what other opportunities there are.
We've lost your
Can't
audio,
hear you.
Dougal.
Is that yeah?
Yeah.
Um, and you have some experience of generating revenue.
Yes, I mean certainly this year. I mean, the lectures we've had this year, I think we've generated getting on for sort of £2,000, and one in particular we managed to generate sort of £800 from one lecture. So, you know,
Brilliant.
that's for a small museum like us, that's a very healthy contribution.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as Isla said, it's really trying to see where we can extend it out to do other things as well.
Absolutely. And are you finding that it's the same kind of audiences who are coming to each of those, who are paying for the tickets to see each of those? Or are you getting different different audiences?
I think a lot of them are the same audience, partly because quite a number of them are geared around the picks. I mean, if we do
Hmm.
ones that are around George Bain, we'll get a slightly different group of people for that. Um, because
Yeah,
you know that's what we've got the focus in on. That's why we've got it. I think where Isla's talking about, we're doing things like workshops could certainly interest other people in getting involved with things as well.
sorry, I just needed to get a device there for later. Well, yeah, that it's really positive. I think that bodes really well, and there's quite a lot we could get. We can talk more about monetization models,
Yeah,
but and we'll look through the technology. And in terms of when we had when Nicola and I spoke at the end of last year, we were talking about what resources technically Grome House has, and I know they're relatively lean in terms of equipment.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I purposefully kind of put together a mixture of different stuff, but having a look at what you could do with hopefully what is readily available and at hand. So we're going to demo a few different ways of doing things.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Great. Next on my screen, to Vanessa, please.
Hi. Yeah, I'm West Highland Museum in Fort William. So
Hmm.
we've sort of dabbled, mainly during lockdown. We did some online lectures and we did some hybrid lectures as well at the end of lockdown. I'm very interested in learning how to monetize that. It was really interesting to hear that Graham House have been successful at doing that. We've had requests in the past. We've done live lectures over at Highland Cinema to live stream them, but at the moment the cinema don't have the facilities to do that, but they are getting them. So we're hoping to be able to do online lectures either at the museum, over at the venue next door to us, or perhaps out and about. But yeah, it's learning how to do it confidently, because we've had a few hiccups, even simple things like we had Professor Hugh Cheap do a lecture for us, and somebody was doing their washing up throughout, and none of us could figure out how to turn their mic off.
Oh,
And
no.
people were sending messages like, "Can you turn?" And the person obviously was washing up and wasn't getting the messages. So, yeah, so it's even just learning how to manage it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for us. And the hybrid event did work very well, but because we only did it as a one-off, it was with Tartan historian Peter MacDonald. So I was on an iPad doing the Q&A for people online, and then we were doing it for people in the room as well. So that worked, but I don't honestly remember how it worked. So I think we just need to do it more frequently to build up our own confidence as well. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Or we did do a successful one actually, in 2021 with St Andrews, and there were 500 people on that call. That was really
Uh,
good. Paul Merton, the Scottish historian, introduced that for us. But again, we didn't monetize it or ask for donations, which in retrospect we should have done, but we didn't know how to. Mhm.
okay. Well, yeah, that'd be a good thing to look at.
Mhm.
Great. Well, that's some pretty good experience to start with as well, but also some challenges to overcome. Um, yeah, the rogue open mic in a broadcast is, I mean, that's kind of just as well. The person was just doing the washing up, but there's yeah, uh, we've fallen victim to that a few times, not in Zoom calls, but with broadcasts, and it's horrible. So yeah, you definitely want to be able to try and mitigate that. Well, thank you. And again, we can discuss more of those things throughout the course of it. And then Lynn.
Hello, it's technically not Lynn, it's Ayla. But we're kind of wanting to start more public engagement on social media. Um, we've not really done any live stream experiences like you guys, but we're trying to like add more heritage related content for public engagement for our clients. And thought streaming might be a good way to start that.
Yeah, great. What kind of things?
We're not sure just yet. I'm still trying to work that all out. But yeah, we were thinking maybe talks.
Yeah, from sites
Mm.
maybe, and then like yeah, just being able to talk about the process of archaeology. Commercial archaeology is a bit of a mystery to people, so just trying to make it a bit more kind of accessible and open, and we think that it's going to be part of the future of what outputs commercial units are creating, rather than it just be that we make a report more about lots more of this public engagement. So that's our thoughts really.
And what would the format of those events be?
Well, not really so much events. I was thinking more like, you know, how people just stream, they just have little streams that they do for a little while, where it's like, yeah, you might just put up little videos about this or little videos about that, that are easily digestible by the public. So that's
Okay,
kind of
cool.
more the direction that we're coming
Yeah,
from.
great. Well, I could definitely talk about that, about creating content then on a regular basis.
Yes, that would be really good, actually.
Um,
Yeah, so just Lynn, I don't know if you want to introduce because Lynn and sorry, was it I missed your name. That's with Lynn.
It's
Um
Ayla as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
Lynn,
it's just a different
Lynn
spelling.
from Highland Archaeology Service as opposed to a museum. So it's a slightly different kind of setup where they're more, I guess, out on sites doing digs and work and things as opposed to being in a museum setting.
oh, interesting. Right. So, would you do some of these updates from out in the field?
If possible, but you know, also we can do it in a more controlled place as well. Like, you know, sometimes we'll have artifacts to talk about, or we might be talking about the processes that we're doing. But yeah, in the field would be great because obviously that's where the archaeology is that people are less likely to be able to engage with otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, great. Okay, brilliant. And then there's one more name. Thank you very much, Lynn and Ayla. And then Alistair.
Hi. Uh, I don't have a lot to add really to what Isla and Paul have said from the Grome House point of view.
Yeah,
Um, as Paul said, we went online with our talks really because of COVID, but we did find that we were getting much bigger audiences, and obviously we were getting people tuning in from abroad, which was all brilliant. And when uh, one of my colleagues on the board wanted to just start doing hybrid events, I must admit I was quite scared by the thought, from mostly from the technical point of view. It seemed to
yeah.
me to increase the risks of something not working right considerably. Uh, so that's, I guess, the aspect of it that I'm most interested in really is getting the technical side right for hybrid events. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, there's, yeah, I mean, well, there's no way to dress it up. There's a lot to it. And as soon as you do something more complicated than a Zoom call, it can get quite convoluted.
That's what I expected. Yeah.
Yeah. As I am discovering right now, in the course of trying to do this demo, and it's not definitely not doing what I want it to do. And that is that's the way when you do live demos with things. But I'm gonna persevere anyway. The computer is running it. Yeah, my computer's, which is a very powerful, very capable machine, has started to slow down. So I'm not sure what's up with it, but bear with me, and we'll work through it. And if I need to restart, then I'd like to not do that before we take a break, but we'll just have to roll with it. So wanted to talk a little bit about about audience and like where your audience is. Because we've talked a little bit about this, but there's are the audiences that you are reaching or trying to reach through, or you would like to reach through live streamed events or through video content online, are they predominantly in your community already, like on mailing lists as part of regular visitors, regular customers, or are they more extended communities online through social media channels? Just like if anyone's got something to contribute, just jump in.
Mhm. Alistair here. I would say in our case, they're mostly already within our community of interested people, either in the museum itself or in the areas that we cover, in the museum. Yeah. So the Picts and Celtic art, they're mostly from those communities of interest already, really. I would say.
And are the numbers quite stable, or are they growing, or how can you? What's the potential for you to grow that audience?
I guess we don't really know the potential. The numbers are probably fairly stable. So much depends on how effective the advertising is.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit hard to say. I don't think I couldn't say that we're sort of definitely growing an audience.
So I think
Okay.
it's fair to say that, I mean, when we're advertising, we've got a mail shot emails that go out to the people
Hmm.
we've got the contact details for, and then it's put up on Facebook and Instagram on our pages, and obviously on our website as well.
Yeah.
But I think it is growing. I think, the one we had recently, we had, I think it was 130 odd people on one of them, which was pretty good. But
Yeah. Yeah.
on average it's normally about sort of 50.
Okay. Yeah. Um, and are you doing those as Zoom sessions?
Yes,
Yeah. As webinars or meetings?
I think they're done as meetings.
Yeah. Okay. And do you live stream them from Zoom, or they're just within Zoom? Oh, I suppose they're monetized, so you keep them
Yeah,
within Zoom. Yeah.
yeah, that's how we monetize them. We people book tickets through either art tickets, or we're starting to use more Eventbrite, like for this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Um, okay, cool. Are there any other experiences from Vanessa or Lynn and Ayla, in
Ours
terms of
was a
where your
couple of
audience is?
Yeah, well, I was just a couple of years ago, but predominantly it was people outside the area. When we did our 100 objects one, which had sort of 500 people, there were people in Australia, America, Switzerland, Germany. But it was very much focusing on the 100 star objects at the museum. But
Yeah.
we're Jacobites is sort of the thing that attracts the most interest, I'd say. And
Hmm.
when we've done tartan talks, again, it's sort of more specialist people from outside the area that have been interested, but the locals come because that was hybrid events. So the locals come, but people that are unable to come to the area join online. So,
Okay, yeah. And the when you did the 100 objects, did you find that you were like growing your kind of your own community through what you had, through the interest that you'd managed to capture online, like through social?
I think this was it. We need to be better at sort of capturing people's data that we can then encourage them to grow as supporters. As far as I'm aware, we didn't really do anything with the information that we had to retain those audiences, which we should have
Mhm.
done. But it was very early on. We'd only sort of it was our first big event, so lessons learned. We really should have tried to retain. But we to advertise events when we have done them in the past, we've used sort of Facebook and social media and our website and yeah, or even press releases and things as well.
And when you were doing these events, what platforms were you using?
We use Zoom actually. Mhm. Um,
And why did you use Zoom out of interest?
um, it was the only one we knew how to use, to be fair. It was,
Yeah.
but we have recently swapped to Teams. So we have given up our Zoom account now. But yeah, so that's the other thing. It's sort of learning what's the best platform for people to access. I know Zoom, a lot of people find easier.
Yeah, I was going to say, um, you jumped out of the frying pan into the fire with Teams. But how are you finding it?
Um, it's good. Well, we're doing it because a lot of us are home working now, so we can access work like the museum files and things. So from a work perspective, it's working very well. And also as well, I'm finding for meetings, for personal meetings, it's working great as well because it's automatically in your calendar and it reminds you when you've got a meeting coming up. It's yeah, and it's easier to share screens and things. So
Sure, yeah. So from an internal communications
yeah.
perspective, it's working well for you. But I would wonder how it would be to run a public-facing event on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'd be better off sticking with Zoom for those sort of things, do you think?
Well, so I'll come back to that in just a moment. Just wondered if Lynn and Ayla, from an archaeological point of view, where your audience or prospective audience is.
So our audience is mainly concentrated on Facebook right now, and it's all very local. And we seem to get at most kind of the 100 to 200 mark where people are seeing the posts. And they're mainly from Inverness or Aberdeen or sometimes Edinburgh and Glasgow, but it's all quite local stuff.
Whereabouts are you, sorry?
We're based out in Colbokie on the Black Isle.
Oh, right, great. Okay, thanks. That is an interesting mix and spread of things. So just wanted to get a sense of that because to speak to your community, and certainly if you're doing things where it's a kind of closed event, so you're because you're monetizing it and you're selling tickets to it, then however you're selling the tickets, whether it's through Zoom or a plugin through it, or through your own website, or through something like Eventbrite, which I think is a pretty good way of doing it. I've used Eventbrite to sell tickets for various events that we live stream, including the World Highland Dancing Championships at Cowell Gathering, which we do every year, and as a one-off event, rather than sort of festival package or recurring event system, I quite like Eventbrite. I think it works quite well for that. But then for public-facing, free-to-watch events where you're going out to appeal to, potentially would like to appeal to as many people as possible, then there are advantages to using Zoom with Zoom, where it works very well is where you have a meeting environment and you've got remote participants like this. And that's what it's made for, obviously. Same as Teams and Google Meet and things like that. And then you can, of course, use the webinar package. Nicola, do you run webinars with museums in Heritage Highland?
We mostly do meetings so that they're more interactive, but we have
Yeah,
done some webinars, and especially as you know through Expo North, we started
yeah.
out doing these webinars there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one, the webinar thing. I think personally, I think I would prefer just to do it as a live stream. So I'll talk about in a moment what I mean by that. Than webinar, but there you do get, you've got the functionality that Zoom gives you with screen sharing and the ability to run polls and surveys and have different Q&A to the chat thread and that sort of thing. So there are pros and cons to it. But for those of you who have a presence already on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, although Instagram's a different proposition, which I can talk about separately, just because of the way it works. Or indeed any social platform, really, but because they all facilitate live streaming now, although there are usually some requirements in terms of the standing of your channel. But if you especially with Facebook, if you try streaming, now you can either stream directly to Facebook, and I'll show you how in a moment, or you can use Zoom to stream to Facebook. But to be honest, I mean, it works. It's fine, works fine, but it's a bit clunky. But and there's more elegant ways of doing it. But the advantage of going to a social platform, if it's free to watch, free to view, is the potential to significantly extend the reach, and you're reducing the barrier to entry of the having to join a Zoom call or whatever platform. But you don't necessarily you don't have the data capture that you could get through registering for a Zoom event. So in talking about that, the desire to capture data, which I completely understand, there is that issue. I'll give you another anecdote or a bit of personal experience on that. This is an interesting one. This is with a very large scale event. Each year we live stream the World Pipe Band Championships on Glasgow Green for Glasgow Life and the Royal Scottish Pipe Band Association. And last year, when we began talking about it in the spring, each year when we began planning it, the marketing manager at Glasgow Life said, I'd like to try, we're debating the potential of charging for the stream. And I said, well, I think that's quite a big jump because we've never done it before and it's free to watch, albeit they actually restrict it to watch on their website. So you need to go to their website to watch it. But I said, if you introduce a ticket price, having never had one, then you will have a significant drop in viewing figures. So it depends what matters more to you and how you can, if building the audience is more valuable than whatever revenue you could earn from it. And this is an event that's watched by 50,000 people. So and attended in person by 10,000. So it's it's a big event, and so I set out various monetization possibilities for them, different platforms we could consider, an idea of the costs and fees involved, and so on. And from our point of view as well, we would take a longer in our setup and preparation, and we would need to bring an extra person into our crew just dedicated to the paywall side of it, as well as the streaming engineering and monitoring. And so they decided not to go with pay-per-view last year, but they said we'd like to introduce, we'd like to do some data capture. So we'd like people to register to watch the stream. And as soon as you put any barrier at all in front of clicking play and watching it, then you will get, you will lose some viewers. But we thought it was a gamble worth taking because we would get data that would be very valuable to them for promoting tickets for the following year, for promoting all kinds of other things. And so we use Vimeo to stream that event, or certainly have done historically, and they have a registration system, and we looked at that and we were all set to use it, and then someone pointed out that there was a data management issue because it's my, it's Inner Ear's Vimeo account, and so then the ownership of the data, there will be a complicated data transfer arrangement with Glasgow Life as a corporate, and so it wasn't going to be possible. But then they came up with a kind of compromise, which was, we'll put an email registration form on our website above the video player and say that you have to register to watch the stream. And I said, well, yeah, let's try that then. So they did that, and it was very effective. Over the weekend, they got something like 4,500 sign-ups to their mailing list from the people who'd watched the stream. So that's potentially immensely valuable to them in terms of what they can do with that that audience, and or that extension to their audience. So the numbers are big because I'm talking about a big event. And interestingly, I think they could have structured it differently, because all they did was put an email form on the web page above the video player, and said you need to register to watch the stream, but you didn't, because you could just ignore the form and click play. And I thought, put it on a different page, at least have a click through to watch the player once you've submitted the form. But they didn't, they just had it on the same page, and it still worked. So it's kind of, that you don't ask, you don't get. And even just psychologically, having the form above the player before you click play worked. So so I think there are ways of doing data capture, even if you are going out free to watch via social channels. And there's the possibility of using some, if you have an audience on a social network, on a social media platform, then experimenting with some live streams directly to that platform of free to watch content as a way even of just teasing your pay-per-view material is worth considering. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit about where audiences are and how we might reach them. And then I'll go into, and the other thing was just on platforms. Another one that you might, that Vanessa, since you've moved to Teams, that you might want to consider is Google Meet. If you use Google stuff at all.
Yeah, we use Google Meet actually for our Gallic development group, but that's the only experience I've got of using it. So,
yeah, it's very straightforward, very plug and play, and you don't need, I know that with Zoom and Teams you can join in just from the browser, and so that would probably be the way to do it rather than requiring people to use the app. But with Google Meet, it's all browser based, and it's very quick and easy to use, and the quality is decent, so yeah, I think that's worth considering. So any questions about anything so far? Okay, so in terms of the actual how you do it, then the program making side of it, I'm going to talk about equipment and the whole process. So we've talked a bit about platforms, and we can come back to that in terms of the how you actually put it together. So I'm going to try. I'm frustrated somewhat by my okay, it seems to have sorted itself out. Right, let's try this again then. So I'm going to switch my camera. Just bear with me a sec. Just I was using an external monitor and it's turned itself off. So um, let me just power it back on. While I'm doing this, Nicola, you'd sent me a few examples of things, but I was just wondering if you knew of any other museums who were doing interesting things with live content.
There's I mean, across our network, there's the ones that I kind of sent with West Highland have been experimenting. Ullapool, Gairloch have all, and Grome House obviously have all been experimenting and doing some good jobs of attracting new audiences to content. I struggled to find other small independents that were doing it. There's then the biggies who are doing like really interesting things and being able to show. They have different resources and different capacity to be able to do that, obviously. So there's a lot of bigger museums that are doing sort of courses and hybrid events and talks. And I love a lot of the stuff that the Natural History Museum does in terms of being able to go around their collection on site and talk about different projects and interview sort of guest speakers and things, and they stream that live to Facebook or Instagram. And then there's some that have sort of bigger events that you pay to book into all across the world. But I didn't know, I didn't find many other smaller independent museums that were doing it or doing it any better than our own network was. And I think we did a session at Expo North with Grome House during the pandemic to show that, they were really looking at monetizing and making success of that, being able to do the smaller hybrid events. And I think I hold them up to the rest of the sectors being able to do that well. And I think you spent some time with Gairloch as well, looking at their setup. And when
Yeah.
Mark was their outreach assistant, they started doing a lot of hybrid events in their new space, and being able to experiment and reach global audiences in that way. So Gairloch are worth looking at as well. Yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment.
Okay, thanks. No, that's very useful. So you see that I have switched my camera view, and so this is now the issue I've got. I started doing it again. The issue I've got is there's quite a lot of lag between this camera, what I'm actually doing, and what's happening on the camera. I don't know if the audio and video are in sync for you, but
There's
it's
a slight bit of lag, but
right. Okay. Well, I might not dwell on this setup then, because it could get frustrating. But let me just show you what I can do with this. So you see here, you can see more of my desk through a wider angle camera, and then I have actually got so this is coming from a vision mixer, and I've got an alternative view here. I've got a camera on the desk, and so I can pick that up. And here, actually, I'll zoom in. There's the camera, my main camera, and here's an external monitor on which I've pushed the zoom call to, so that I can look at that camera and address the camera straight off and directly, and it's but I can also see you, and the eye line is almost the same, so it's maybe a more engaging way to speak to camera and address each of you. And then I've also got right, so this is my iPad. If I wanted to draw anything that I was going to, have any kind of scribbling to demonstrate stuff. So this is all happening through a vision mixer. So, but I've also, that is then being fed into OBS, which is Open Broadcast Software. So here I've just gone full screen to my iPad. I also have my phone connected as a camera. So that you should be seeing the phone now. And if I so this is my phone, and I can now turn this around and I'll show you a bit of what I'm
You're not
doing.
getting the phone view, Dougal. We've just still got you on the big screen.
Ah, okay. That's interesting. Let me. Oh yeah, okay. Why? Right, I think I know what that'll be. Right. I know what I've done. Right. Sorry, what I had done was cut to, so I went straight to the, it's in Zoom, you can choose your different cameras if you've got them. And so I was on, so this is the built-in camera in my laptop. And then I went to the Blackmagic Vision Mixer, which I'll show you in a minute. And what I should have done was gone to OBS itself, the output. So here you can see this is this is the phone camera, and so I can use this as a little portable camera to show you what's what. So yeah, so this is obviously just my computer. I'll push that window back into my external monitor, and so here we're getting in the output menu there, we're getting lots of visual feedback cascading into an infinity there. But this is, so on my computer here, we can see OBS, so Open Broadcast Software. I can do a screen share of this to show you it more better in a moment, but just show you what else is on the desk. So there's my iPad, which I'm not really using that. I can't think of it. If I did need to scribble anything, it's there, but it's something I wanted to see if I could integrate. And I'll show you also the iPad camera can also be used. But here, this is a little vision mixer that Blackmagic, who are a pro kind of broadcast kit company, brought out quite a few years ago now, and very low cost, but very feature rich for what it is. So I've got the 4 different sources there that sorry, I'm getting quite confused about where I'm pointing the camera. Yeah. If I, let's see, yeah. Why is that not changing? Okay. So yeah, you can see got these are the devices that I'm using. But I want to kind of show you what's possible just with the OBS software and the and a phone, potentially with a mic, because I'm also then I have got a clip mic that I'm wearing here, and I'll show you what that is. Because I've got in this box some more of it. So it is the Rode Wireless Go devices. So you get a transmitter. I've got one clipped to my jeans there, and into it is plugged this clip mic, but this is the transmitter, which has actually got a built-in mic to it as well, and then there's the receiver unit, and in here I've got the receiver unit on the top of the camera. You might see it there. And the reason I've done that is because it should mitigate against delay, because the audio and video are both coming from the same device from the camera. This is a little charging case for the units. They're great, these mics. They last, for the battery will last about 5 hours. And also the mic has a great capability to be able to, the transmitter unit has a memory card, 4 gig memory card in it, and it can transmit, it can record everything that's input into it. It records something like 7 hours worth of audio. And so I've set it to record whenever it's on. So it'll be recording all this, or my speech. And then you can also get these holders that you can slot them into and put a mic shield on. And then you've got a handheld mic from the same kit as well. So yeah, it's really very nice wee system. What I'll do is I'll come back to, let's go back into Zoom. So yeah, that's the setup I've got, which is for my company, that is a pretty simple, modest setup that we've got here. It's not that modest when you're well, it's still enough to try to produce on your own whilst you're explaining it. But it's a relatively simple setup. However, for those of you who are not familiar with it, then it's a lot to take in. So what can we do more simply? The reason that I would recommend thinking about this software is you can, even if you are just using Zoom, then it just gives you more options on what you can do. Because if you don't have, if you're using Zoom and you want to stream an event that is in your establishment, then you're going to need a camera, because otherwise you've you're tied to the device with the webcam, and that is not, it's just going to be very difficult to make that work very well, look and sound good for the audience. So you need an external camera. So what are the options on that? Well, you could, the way that I got my phone into the Vision Mix setup there was using, so there's various different apps and plugins that you can get that you can turn a smartphone into a camera into a webcam essentially. And so I'm using one. I was trying to. So I've got a Samsung 24 S24 Ultra there, which was last year's top of the range Samsung phone, and I will keep for quite a long time, I think. It's very good, and I got it for its video capabilities, and it's great to be able to use it as a camera for this sort of thing. So I'm using an app called Camo, CAMO, and I can probably screen share the settings app with it. Yeah. So this is Camo Studio, and here I can choose between, I started using this yesterday when I was setting up, but here we can see the different devices that are connected to the computer. So there's the phone that I've got, my built-in FaceTime camera, and then these are the two capture devices that I've got connected. The Blackmagic design is the little vision mixer I showed you, which has got a capture device built into it. And then there's another one that I'm running my iPad through. But most importantly, here it gives me the phone, and of course it's in interesting, yeah. So it's defaulting to landscape, but I could make it portrait if I wanted. Because here I can choose the resolution. So here I'll make it full HD, and then I can also, lens, I can choose. So I could go to, it's on the front camera lens, but I've now switched it to the back camera lens. And you can see here the vision, the vision mixer, and then this is the other capture device that I was using for my iPad. I am using for my iPad. So so this is quite. Where am I? Go back to Zoom, and I'll. Stop share, and then I can switch my camera here to the Camo camera, and so here we are. So this is just coming straight into Zoom, not going via anything else, so this is quite a nice way of using a smartphone as a camera. So that's something you could try. I quite like this software. It's quite good. I was trying to use one called Droid Cam, which I have used in the past, and I just couldn't get it working properly. And then there are, I think Camo is also available for iOS. I'm just going to quickly look that up.
It is. I just looked, and it is there.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm using the free version. I think I will buy it. But it works fine free, and it'll just be limited with some features. There's another more higher spec way of doing it using NDI, which is called Network Digital Interface, and that is a professional broadcast standard for networking different cameras together, and you can do it wirelessly and wired, and it works great, and you can get plugins for Android and iOS devices, and they will work with Zoom and other video platforms, and they work with OBS really well, and with professional streaming software. But it's a bit more, there's a little bit more to it. Although that said, the camera stuff is pretty plug and play. The app is expensive for an app, but it's not expensive for software. It's like 17 or 18 pounds. And there's no free version. So I have used it before though, because in 2020, my partner's dad died, and we were with her family in Rugby, where they live, when it happened. And then the funeral was the following week, and it was during lockdown with all the restrictions. And they said to me, she's from a very big family, can you stream the service? You know, so that more than the whatever it was, 20 or 30 allowed in the church, can see it and can join in the service. And I said, well, yeah, I'll certainly try and do that, but you know, I don't have any of my equipment or anything. And they were talking about like sending me back to Glasgow to get a load of kit and even some crew. And I said, no, let's try and do this with what we've got. So we used several mobile phones and iPads and some NDI wireless stuff and some bits and pieces, and we managed to put together, with the help of a couple of her nephews, put together a decent enough stream of the funeral. And I learned a lot through that, through partly about kind of consumer-based live streaming stuff, and partly about the value of doing that for such a sensitive event. And then I went outside afterwards and asked my son, who would have been, 7 at the time, what did he think of the live stream? And he said, you could have had a bit more movement in the camera, Dad. I was like, all right, sorry, I didn't manage to get a jib in there. But he's used to a lot of the bigger shows that we do. But yeah, that was quite good. I mean, it was the most difficult experience of my life, trying to keep it together whilst, you know, during a very moving and sad event, whilst producing a stream. But it was also rewarding, and I learned a lot about how you can use a fairly readily available kit to stream things. So yeah, I think that the first thing I would do, if all you have is a laptop, but you've got, you know, like access to some reasonably good mobile phones, smartphones, you know, by reasonably good, I mean like relatively recent, last few years, but you know, you probably go last 5 years, and the camera's going to be pretty good. It's certainly going to be a lot better than a laptop webcam, and you don't have the awkwardness of the fact that you're stuck with a front-facing webcam. You could, of course, buy an external webcam, and you could get a Logitech one, probably would be the leaders in it, and they'd make amazing cameras for considering they're like USB plug and play, and you could spend maybe up to 50 quid and get a really good one. But you are more limited there because it's USB, it's connected to the computer, you don't have a lot of flexibility about where you put stuff. So if it is in a kind of a lecture, talk or discussion environment, then you're going to have a lot more flexibility with stuff like a phone or a tablet. And I said I know that we are due to take a short break, which I think we'll do in a moment, but I was just going to show you the iPad camera and how that can be ingested into a stream as well, because that's quite interesting. So again, without going through OBS at the moment, if I just, in my video, I can choose the capture card that's looking at the iPads. Right, so this is my iPad. So this is Procreate, the drawing app. and so that's fine. But if I wanted to use a camera, then I will use Filmic Pro. And the reason for that is, you see before that I was getting only, it's like a cropped output from the iPad when you're screen sharing. But Filmic Pro can overcome that and give you a full widescreen HD camera picture out. Getting a little bit glitching there. I think it's an HDMI cable issue. So this is my iPad Pro, and it's the keyboard stand for it has it's pretty useful for that sort of thing, for angling the camera. So that's another option you can use. Now that is with, so that I should say though, is with me using a capture device. So I will come on to talk about that kind of kit more in a moment, but why don't we take a short break just now, and then when do you want to reconvene, Nicola?
Just about 1:45. It's just 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah, great. All
One
right,
quick
thank you.
question.
Yeah, please.
I noticed the other cameras you were using, are they digital SLRs?
So the main one that I've got is, yes. It's it's actually a sort of cross between an SLR and a Canon cinema camera, but it's effectively like an SLR. But then I've also, the other two that I've got, the one on the desk and the alternative view, they are little mini broadcast cameras that we've had for ages. But you can use a whole variety of different cameras.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll come back and talk about what you need to do to get to capture that picture.
Okay, thank you.
Great, see you
Cheers.
in 5 minutes.
Hello. Okay. Okay, can you hear me again? Yeah,
Yep.
great. Yeah, I'm just playing around with my setup here to see if I could improve it, but yeah, there's something, I'm not sure what's up. But okay, so talked a bit about how you could get other cameras into your setup, and so you can either do that using using a meeting environment like Zoom, or you could do it using streaming software. So to look a bit more at that, I will screen share what I've got going on with OBS and explain what I've done. Okay, so should see here OBS Studio, and I'll try and talk through what I've got. So right, yeah. So I have been, I did disconnect the ATEM. Do you know what? I'm going to close OBS and restart it. Right, okay. So let's go back to screen share this. OBS Studio. Right, so this is OBS, which is open broadcast software, free, cross-platform, open source live streaming software, video production software, and it is both a production environment and streaming encoder. So I can explain a bit about what that means. So here I've got it with preview and program mode. So on the left hand, the preview, that's whatever I queuing up next. So the smartphone, this is the phone camera that I've got. Just focus it on the bit of my lamp there. And then if I click this, so I've got two options to cut. I can transition, which has a quick fade in it, or I can cut. You can see here I've got the fade types, and then yeah, it's got just some different options on fading. So actually all you can do is fade to black or fade, but then I've got this little crossfader here to fade between the preview and program. So what I'm doing there is I'm cutting between different scenes, and I've set up, so there's the ATEM, which is, this is the vision mixer, which is for whatever reason being really laggy. I don't understand. I haven't seen it do this before. Of course, it would do that during a live demo. I've got the iPad Pro that I showed you. Now, to make it full screen, I just expanded the box. So the actual picture, the actual image that I'm getting from the iPad Pro, as you can see here, so I can move the source around. So all I did was I made it bigger than the window so that I've got a full clean screen. I was trying to find a drawing app which should give me a full screen output like the Filmic Pro does with video, and I can't find one. So I just made the picture bigger. Expanded it to get rid of the menus on the matte black screen that it has around the iPad. There's the smartphone, like we've seen. Oh, it's just there we are. Yeah. And then this is the slideshow that I was showing. So let's go back to slideshow, image show, and I can go through different slides here of a slideshow. And in the properties, I can choose whether it's automatically spooling through, how it's transitioning, and what the time between the slides is, that sort of thing. Is it on a loop? Will it just play through once? And the slideshow is pulling from just lots of image files exported from that original presentation. So I then, I cut between all the different sources here. So if you had a talk, you could have one or two cameras. So you got, like, I've got the the smartphone there. I could potentially have another smartphone or tablet. I'm not sure what's up with it has been running a long time, but I don't know if this is to do with the software or the connectivity and the Wi-Fi in this room, why it keeps cutting out. I'll just try reconnecting it. So yeah, I can set up my different sources here. So if I wanted to, as scenes, that is. So a scene is something that you can cut to, and the reason they're called scenes is so I'll create a new scene. Scene 2, I'll just call it that just now. And then in the scene, I can add sources. So here are all the different things you can add. And so if I wanted the video capture device, I can add existing, I've already linked to it. So I can add the the Camo software, and then or I could add I think that is the ATEM, and I could do other things. So I could add some text. I'll use the one that I made earlier. I created some text earlier, and you see there, yeah. So I created a lower third, and there is something up with that webcam link, but yeah, I can do stuff like layer up different things, so you can create basic graphics and so on in it, and really get as kind of, you can get quite sophisticated with it. Lots of people use OBS. We use it when teaching, but there's two organizations I taught last year who are using it extensively for streaming live events, and getting on very well with it. And the advantage is that you can use it to create a more professional environment if you're streaming events. And then if you can either simply do this start virtual camera here in the bottom right, and that will turn it into a source that Zoom can see, or you can go into the settings and here we've got I'm just wondering why this is running so slowly. We've got the option to stream it to different services. So you can choose between popular platforms, or you can input the details manually. And I can show you how to do that if you want me to, but it depends what you like to get out of the rest of the session. But yeah, so that's OBS. That it may be more than you actually need to do. You might be happy enough just enhancing what you're already doing with the likes of Zoom. It really depends what direction you want to go in. So any thoughts on that, and on how you would envisage yourselves kind of enhancing the production of your live events? Anyone got any thoughts on it?
Hi there, Alistair here. I think probably to start with, if we were going to stream a talk that was being given live, probably we would just try and add in an extra camera or two
Yeah,
to a Zoom meeting, I guess. We've never
I think
we've
that
never
would be,
never looked at the webinar side of Zoom, so that's a kind of closed book really at the moment. But yeah, so start with something pretty simple, really. But
yeah,
you never know what if we got some of this stuff, and bearing in mind that a lot of it's free, start playing with it and see what it sparks in our imagination about what to do. Yeah.
yeah, good. What do you have equipment-wise that you can use?
Well, pretty much Nothing really.
We've we've got a digital SLR camera.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
okay. Have we? Yeah, I suppose we have. Yeah, we've got we've all got our phones.
Yeah,
Um,
Yep.
we're planning on getting um an up-to-date laptop quite soon, somehow or other. That's about it, really.
Do you know what the SLR is, Paul?
it was a Canon.
Yeah, it's probably pretty old, isn't it?
No,
That may not matter too much.
it's only 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Well, it was part of the George Bain project. We bought it,
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, well, that's encouraging. Yeah, that shouldn't be too
and we've got
bad
a
then. Yeah.
tripod and bits to put it on as well. So,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
um,
Hmm.
It's
because we've got
likely
the
to be quite good then.
yeah,
And as long as you can get a clean output, which you will be able to feed from it via HDMI, then what you need to do, so I've talked about capture devices, so
Hmm.
you need to, video capture device takes the video signal and encodes it for a computer to be able to understand as an input. And so I've got four of them on the table at the moment. So as I say, the little vision mixer is a capture device as well. I don't know what is happening that is making this really quite laggy today. To be honest, it's not one we use very much but we have used it in the field properly, and it's been fine. So, but there are just there are quirks with things, and something about the setup I've got is causing it to overload a bit, and I'm not sure what it is, but I'll find out afterwards. But that's me trying to use it with OBS. I've also then got that there's the capture device that I've got here to take my iPad in as a feed. And it's got an in and an out, so I looped out of it into the vision mixer so I could also get the feed in there. I've got two others. I tried to see if I could overcome the issue with the vision mixer lag by taking the video output from the vision mixer into this. So this is another Blackmagic device. This is an Ultra Studio recorder, and it uses USB-C Thunderbolt 3 cable. And when I bought this, it was about 100 quid. And that's it is kind of professional broadcast standard signal you get with that. You do need a driver to run it from the Blackmagic website, but it's very powerful and it's just very good. You've got two different inputs. There's HDMI or professional BNC connector for broadcast cameras. However, what I would probably recommend over that is something like this. This is an Elgato Camlink, and I actually bought this for my father-in-law's funeral. So it's a USB device with an HDMI input on it. This is just a little USB extension. So you just plug your camera feed into that and connect that to your computer. This red thing is the same, exactly the same idea. It also has a loop out, which the Elgato one doesn't have. But I think this was like 50 quid or something. This one probably 100 quid. The 50 quid one kind of shows sometimes. It's probably aimed at the low end of the gaming streamer market, which is massive. But these things are used by all different. You know, again, it's like kind of lower end of the market, but they're really, really decent. So you'll need to get a capture device. I would probably recommend the Elgato ones as a good way of starting out.
You'll be able to send around a note to people afterwards of what sort of equipment we should look at.
Yes, yeah, I can recommend some sort of good starter stuff. Because the other thing that you'll need to think about is audio. What do you do currently, or do you do anything that is like beyond kind of people directly in front of their computers?
No.
No. Okay. So if you were doing that, then you would need to think about the audio, and they're a bit pricier. There's so many different options with audio, but because you can get lots of good USB mics, which you can get very cheaply, that are very decent, but they are more kind of desktop based, you know, for meetings. Then you can also get, I put a few things within reach to show you. This is, confusingly enough, this company is also called Zoom. They've been going longer than Zoom, the platform. This is a Japanese AV tech company, and they make really good recorders. So there's a whole range of them that come with these detachable mics, and this one, and they all have USB output and can function, as well as a recorder, they can function as audio interface, audio capture device for the computer. And we sometimes use them like that. So we use these recorders, and like I've got lots of different models, and we use them for field recording, for recording podcast stuff, sometimes as mic inputs for video. Yeah, they're like, you can get recorders like this for probably as low as sort of 50 quid, although they probably wouldn't be very good. Not like that, but you know, like USB enabled audio recorders. But if you're spending sort of in the low hundreds, you can get very good kit indeed. They make another little one that sits on top of a camera, into which you can plug a shotgun mic, which is that the mic on the other one I showed you, which is called an XY mic, gives you a kind of wide pattern of pickup in front of you, so it's pretty good for talk-based stuff, for a discussion. The shotgun mic is very directional. That's typically what's used for video interviews. And then also in this case, I've got, this is like a smaller version of the one I just showed you. The one I showed you was the H6, this is the H5. And then another option would be to have a mixer, an audio mixer, and some more standard mics, and in terms of audio mixer, I'll show you the one that we normally use. And this is again by Zoom, because we do love their kit. And this is the what is this? L8 it's called. It's a digital mixer and multi-track recorder, so we can plug, for event stuff, we'll take a feed into the first two channels, left and right, from the venue mixing desk, and then we'll put our own live mics in there, and we can record them all separately and mix it down later. But the reason I showed you that is because you could, now this is like a £500 desk, but you can get an audio mixer for well under 100 quid, just an analog one, and get some handheld dynamic mics, feed it into there, and then plug it into your camera. And I could outline some sort of kit for doing it that way. But I'm just trying to think what the simplest way of doing it would probably be to have something, a mic that would sit on top of the camera, and a shotgun mic would probably do it, pointed at the person who's speaking. Or the alternative is you use the likes of these. No, I put it in the mic holder, didn't I? The likes of these mics. And so this is what I'm using right now, the Rode Wireless Go 2 mics. And again, I'll include links to all this stuff. They are more expensive. There are a variety now of competitors to these, which all work in a pretty similar way. So they're usually you get a kit with 2 microphones and 1 receiver. And so the one receiver will receive the 2 mics, and then you can feed that. You can either plug it into your computer via USB, or you can use an audio cable to plug it into your camera. And the camera option means that it's more likely to be in sync, and there are usually settings on the camera which will make sure it syncs up with the audio. If you're using software like OBS, you can delay the audio channels to make sure that they match the video. But if you're using Zoom, you don't have that option. So you want to capture it all at the same time. So yeah, essentially you've got a camera and a tripod, that's great. Because that will give you very good quality picture. So you just need a capture device, and then you need to think about the sound. There will be a built-in mic on the camera, incidentally, and it's worth seeing what that sounds like.
Yeah.
But it's probably going to be very roomy, so you're going to want to have a think about the sound.
Yeah. No, that's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, pleasure. For the more kind of desk-based piece-to-camera stuff, Lynn and Ayla, that you were talking about, has any of what I've been talking about and showing given you any ideas about how you might approach that?
Yeah, definitely. I think we were thinking about making wee videos on site, and knowing the different options on how to capture audio has been really helpful. And the stuff about mixers was really interesting as well. I thought having different types of ways to input the sound was good to know, especially if we're working outdoors.
Yeah. In which case, I can recommend, always, of course, comes down to budget, but recommend some of the portable recorders I was talking about, which can also be used as audio inputs into streaming software, including Zoom.
That would be really good, actually. Is it more kind of like the wee tiny Rode mics that would clip onto like your jumper, or are you thinking more like those 3D recorders?
I was thinking, but yeah, a bit more about like the portable recorders, but it depends, I suppose, because if you're at a dig, then there'll be lots of nice sound to capture from that of the activity. But and so if you had something where you could, you could record what's happening. But then also do kind of presenter bits or interviews with it. That might be a nice option. But I don't know, we've had such good results from these, and it's, I'll have a think about what would work best and what would be most versatile for you. These things are quite incredible. You can get like if you have, you can also link the receiver to your computer via USB, and I think you can even then you can have both mics as different inputs. Certainly, you would be able to link them to your to Zoom, or you could go with this kind of setup we're talking about. If you had a camera and the mics, and they were, yeah, they can even be separate devices. You could, they are essentially, if you've got a camera via, whether it's a smartphone or DSLR and a capture device, then essentially it behaves as a webcam, and that means that you could use streaming software as well without even having to get into OBS. You could just choose those when streaming to Facebook or YouTube, for example. But I can include some links to useful how-to videos and things as well.
That would be great. Thank you.
And Vanessa, did you have any thoughts about what I was talking about in terms of what you might do with some of your public-facing events?
Yeah, well, we need to get them started again, but yeah, having an additional camera in the room would be a good idea. We've already we have actually got a tripod that holds mobile phones, so that would be the easiest way for us to do it with the equipment that we've got already. But it is, because it's on Zoom, in the past it's literally been the laptop in front of people, and I have been very conscious that if the speaker on hybrid events, if the speaker moves to people in the room, then he's off camera to everybody that's watching live. So
Yeah.
so I think a camera would be really useful. And also, I was quite interested because we're hoping to start collecting oral histories as well. So some of, I know it's a bit off topic, but some of the recording equipment that you've been talking about, the microphones and the recording equipment, might be useful for that for us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I don't think it is off topic in terms of, the holistically what we're considering, and it all feeds into ways to engage your audience, and so again, thinking about if you had an audio recorder then that you could also use for your events, would be nice, if it could serve both purposes.
We do have audio equipment, but it's probably about 10 years old now, and it's very much like a mic set up, and you have to sit in front of it. It's not very mobile. So
right. Yeah, so if it was a hybrid event, is that what you've had so far? You've had that kind of desk-based setup?
Well, we've had, if we've done them, we've done a mixture of ones. The hybrid event, we've got a laptop that we take into one of the room where the events are, and we've just used the camera on the laptop, but we do have an additional webcam that we can use as well. But I like the idea of setting up a tripod somewhere else in the room that would give a perspective, because you could include the backs of the audience in it as well to give a bit more atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's really important with the content from what you're all talking about, to make as much of the place as possible, because that's really, that's a key USP, and that's setting you apart from everyone else. You're all from unique places that have a story to tell in and of themselves, and so I think making as much of the place, the space, the environment as you can is going to increase the value and enhance the experience for the audience. So practically, yes, like having cameras that you can reposition, move around. You've seen even just even though not everything worked in the way that I wanted it to, or as slickly as, which of course it was all day yesterday and this morning before we went live. because that is the way of live streaming, and you can never have enough contingencies. But you've seen that even in Zoom, I have been able to switch camera. This is me switching in Zoom. And so it's not the slickest, but it works. And so you can choose between different sources. So that's something, you could use. It doesn't need to be always an either or. You could use whatever you've got at hand, really, and play with it to try to get the best possible experience you can from the equipment you've got. Another thing we didn't talk about yet really is lighting, and and whether you have any kind of video or event type lighting at your disposal. If not, I would recommend getting some things. And again, I'll make some recommendations of low cost kit there's some little mics. Lights. They're out in use at the moment, but there's some amazing little mics. Let me just by a company called Ulanzi, and I'll recommend some of those to you, because you can get these little cube lights that are about 30 quid or so, and they are really bright, and they change between warm or cold white for daylight, or indoor lighting tungsten color temperature, so you can match them with the color temperature of the space and the other lighting in the space. Or you've got full RGB spectrum as well, so you can set them to any color and light a backdrop with them. And so you can get several, and you can essentially kind of light a place like a set. And these are like really low cost little lights that battery powered, USB chargeable, and I love them. We use them a lot. But you would have seen in my studio, I'm lighting this with, so there's the lamp on the desk, which is doing something, and then I've got two panel lights which are just flooding the room with light. I've got natural light coming in through wall and windows in front of me, and I've got an uplight. Well, I've got a light bouncing off the wall as well. So just thinking about like how because cameras love light, and you want to make it. You want to get, if you're doing a hybrid event, then you want to get the atmosphere in the room right, but you also need to be able to capture it well on camera. So it's just something to experiment with. But again, using natural light and making a virtue of your environment is really is a real asset. So. There's so many more things that I could talk about regarding streaming and enhancing, setup. But before we wrap up, just is there any sort of burning questions or any more things that people would like to ask me about or discuss?
Just in terms of the cameras, like quite a lot of cameras have a maximum recording time and shut themselves off if you use them for videos. Would that be something that we need to think about, or are they in a different setting or mode so that doesn't happen?
That's a very good point. It does depend on the camera. there are, yeah, some cameras have a 20 or 30-minute limit on, which would mean you would have to record again. Now, I'm trying to think. So one of the clients I worked with last year on live streaming training was Glasgow City Heritage Trust for their talks, and I'm trying to remember what camera it is that they bought. I'll look it up. They got a deal, like a package on SLR Hut, and bought a decent camera, and we did experience that issue. And I spoke with a previous live stream training client, Dunoon Borough Hall, because they had the same camera, and trying to remember now, it turned out to be to do with the speed of the SD card it was writing to. You could actually overcome the recording limit by using better quality recording media, better cards. So it depends. It really depends on the camera. If you send me a link to the, or send me the model, I can look it up. To overcome that, like, you really do want to record. You can never make enough recordings, and it's worth recording on everything that can record. That's why having audio devices that can also record is a real asset. The recording that you'll get from Zoom is, you can set it to record locally, I think, instead of cloud-based, and that would be worthwhile doing, because if you had any internet connection issues, then the recording won't be affected in the same way as if it's recording on the server. But it's only going to be as good as the quality that Zoom captures at. So to get high quality recording, you want to record on the camera. But yeah, it does depend on the quirk. And the way around that would be to use an external video recorder, but they're not cheap. So yeah, it depends on the particular equipment and how it's set up, really. You can also record it if you do use software like OBS, and that is the one to use for if you're moving beyond webcam into streaming platform stuff. Then you can record on OBS as well, and so you can get a decent quality recording there. Anything else?
Thank you very much, Dougal. I'm sorry, Alistair, did you have a final question there?
No. I was just thinking anything else would probably be overload now. So, but that's been really helpful. Thank you, and yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, plenty of things to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much to it. I meant to say, I'm writing a book about live streaming at the moment called "This Is What Streams Are Made Of," and it started out, it was going to be an ebook to promote Inner Ear, and it grew because I'm like, I can't just write about part of this process. So it's grown into a comprehensive overview or detailed guide to live program making. But I'm deliberately, it's designed to be modular, so you can dip in and out of what you want. But when it's ready, I have a waiting list on my website, and the initial people to sign up to that will get a free preview copy of it. So I'll send you the link to the waiting list if it's of interest. Join the list, and then when I have the first version, be happy to share it with those who are interested. because there is so much to this. There are so many things. There's a lot more that we didn't talk about. But I'd be delighted to come back in the future if it's useful. And I'll share with the notes. I'll share my email address, and feel free to hit me up with a question if you've got anything following this.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really helpful, and we will send round the recording when we're done. We'll send round a little transcript as well that covers the key topics and the kind of equipment list too, and the link to sign up if you wish to Dougal's book as well in the future. But we'll keep in touch to see if there's any kind of follow-up we can do. But yeah, thank you very much. That was really informative. Probably quite a lot for everybody to go away and think about right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicola.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Everybody.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.